In some states across Nigeria, it is being said that if you come from some areas, it is impossible to hold certain public offices, including being a governor. This marginalization has been decried in so many areas within the country. Take, for example, Benue State Governor Samuel Otom, who says that agitations for power rotation between the Tiv and Idoma-speaking areas will not be feasible in the 2023 governorship election in the state. Since the creation of Benue State in 1976, the Tiv ethnic group has held the elective position of governor to the dismay of the Idomas, who constitute the second largest ethnic group in the state. Now, the Tivs are found in the Benue Northwest and Benue Northeast senatorial districts, while the Idomas are in the Benue South senatorial district. In another instance, some political stakeholders from the southern part of Borno State have insisted on the need to give opportunities to another of the 9 local government areas in the senatorial district to present the next senator. In Kogi State, it will have been difficult for Yahaya Bello to emerge governor if not for the divine intervention, which unfortunately led to the death of late Abubakar Audu. Now, the Igalas have often held power there to the detriment of the Okuns, Ibras, and others. How do we move from here? How do we ensure that other parts, component parts of states are given the right opportunity to govern based on the spirit and letters of the 1999 Constitution? Well, for more on this, I'm now being joined from Kaduna State by Hamma Ahmed Hayatu, who is a public affairs analyst. So good to have you on the show, Hamma. Now, let's talk about this scenario, because it goes around the country. It cuts across the entire nation, with even states like Lagos having a huge challenge when you hear people from Badagry saying that they've never been given the opportunity to actually produce governor of Lagos State. And until recent, many of the indigenes in Lagos State had been saying that it's only people, Yorubas, who come from other states that have been opportune to rule the state, except for very few like Jakonde and Fashola that were able to emerge, and then eventually the governor before Sanwo-Olu, who came in and he got that, but he only spent 1 term. What do you make of this in what many have termed a very serious marginalization?
Thank you for having me. Nigeria is a very diverse country, and our interest-driven politics is everywhere, including our states. Now, anywhere you go to, people are always agitating for power to be given to them or to be rotated to them, but it's not been possible. The same way at the national level, you see people talking about Southern presidency, and at the same time, people in various states are clamoring for that. Like you rightly mentioned, states like Benue now, the Idoma tribe, or I would say Southern Benue, have been clamoring for power to be shifted to them. But the reality is on ground. The population cannot, the parties cannot risk giving it to them, because they know that whoever does emerge, that because most of our voting pattern is driven by primordial sentiments. In the same vein, other states too, such thing happens. Like in Borno State, which is my state, the Southern Borno have never produced any governor. They are always restricted to the deputy. Now, this ironically is despite the fact that they are having the second highest population in the state. Apart from they have higher number than the northern senatorial zone, but the north and the central, due to tribal affiliations, are always aligning against the south. So the south will hardly produce the governor. In the same vein, other states like Jigawa, we had of the Hadeja zone, which is Jigawa Northeast, they have never produced any governor. If you come to Kano, Kano South have not produced any governor. In the same vein, even in Kaduna, where I live, where I reside, we had a southern Kaduna governor before, but due to an intervention that the current governor then was elevated to be the BP. If not, I doubt if they would have been a southern Kaduna governor. Going down south, the same thing, like you rightly mentioned, Badagry people are complaining that they've not been given. If you go to Ogun State, we have the people from Ogun West, which are called Yewa. They have not produced the governor, and they've been clamoring. And it will be very difficult, because they say democracy is a tyranny of the majority. Most times, the majority people that get, and then we are always driven by our ethnic or religious sentiments in our voting pattern. That is the truth we have to tell ourselves. If you go to places like Rivers, you also have people like Ogoni. Ogoni have never ruled Rivers State, despite the agitations of the great minds like Saint Saro Wiwa, but an Ogoni person have never ruled Rivers State, and they've been agitating for that. And the state is only being governed mostly by Ikwere people. That's what I say.
Although we had
oil producing part that.
Reverend Father Moses Adasu, I think he was from the Riverine area, but he just spent a very short time during the aborted Third Republic.
Exactly. Adaku came from the Riverine area, but for a very short time at the aborted Third Republic under IBB. Yeah.
How do we resolve this issue? How do we ensure that there's justice for all, especially in the face of politics of religion or ethnicity in some of these states?
To be very honest with you, it has to be constitutional. Right now, parties zone and what have you, but most times, interest will not make the parties have the zoning as they wanted it to be. For instance, in Nigeria, we always talk about zoning, but before you know it, interest will come into play. Like the PDP are always saying they are going to zone, but if you check back, it is only in 2019 that we had pure Northerners contesting, and apart from 1999, when the military deliberately machinated it to be so, they created it to be so that the two people from the same geopolitical zone and the same religion contested. If not, because they knew that it would divide the country. Funny enough, the best solution to this would have been the Abacha Constitution. The Abacha Constitution would have solved everything. If you remember, the Constitutional Conference instituted by Abacha, chaired by Justice Adolphus Karibe White, proposed some things, including the current geopolitical dot that we are talking about was created by that confab.
Yeah.
They created that, and then they agreed that there's going to be 6
vice presidents,
and then there will be rotation of power. Exactly, vice president. There will be president, Senate president, speaker, prime minister, and deputy prime minister.
Yeah,
these are going to be shared by every 5 years. And it will be rotated
until it gets to 30 years.
30 years was for experimentation. Yeah, exactly. Then it will come back to you, and then there will be one of the things that was agreed upon was there will be alternation between the north and south. If, for instance, if a northeast person becomes the president, then the next will be maybe southwest or south. Then the next time it will be north. It will have solved it. And this rotation did not only stop in the presidency or the national government. It also boils down to the states and even local government. This would have solved the cry of marginalization among the various interest groups.
Yeah, but sorry to cut in here, Hamma. Some states have practiced this and it's working very well. Look at Niger State, for example. The rotation has gone around the 3 senatorial zones where you have, the state carefully selected and well manicured, if you may say it that way, in such a way that power rotates within these 3 zones and it's well curated. Why is it difficult in some states? Like, for example, you see Otom, he's calling for presidency to shift to the south at the national level, but when it gets to his own state, he is insisting that the thieves have to continue despite the agitation by the Domas.
Yeah, Niger State need to be commended with this, honestly, because they are able to rotate governorship among the 3 senatorial districts. But at the same time, you ask why? Probably because they have this homogeneity of interest. Because they might be probably the same tribe or the same maybe religion and what have you. But if you take the case of, to be fair to Governor Otom, Benue State, the demography is different. Because he knows that people voting pattern is mainly on ethnic interests. Now, if they decide to vote, to zone it to the south, they know that the thieves, which are the majority, who constitute the two senatorial districts, which is the central and the northern, they will vote against whoever that emerges in the southern zone. You can imagine, as powerful, as influential as David Mark, who came from Benue South, could not be anything in the state.
Well, he hasn't contested to be governor. Yeah. Why is it difficult for someone like him to contest and test his power? I mean, he was number 3 citizen in the country. Do you think that if David Mark stands for election, that wouldn't contribute to him winning?
Yeah. Because let me be honest with you. You know, there are sometimes we have to face reality. He knows the reality on ground, and he knows what drives people toward voting.
Very interesting.
So he knows that the Idoma person cannot now. We have not reached that level. Our political development have not reached that level. That's why the only way out is to make it constitutional. Rotation to be constitutional. But for now, for 2023, it is very late. It is very late as it is.
Now, let's talk about...
we have to...
Sorry to interject. Let's talk about the issue of Kaduna, for example. Kaduna is one model that a lot of us have been following for a long period of time. And you see where there was this power rotation, at least in such a way that the governor that emerges would always carry the southern part very well, especially in terms of religion. But we saw Governor Nasir El-Rufai bringing in a new dimension where he brought a Muslim ticket. And for the very first time, that gave them a female governor who is Muslim, but from the southern part of the state. How is this playing out? How is this experimentation being received by those in Kaduna State?
It is very unfortunate. Some of us really criticize him then for picking a Muslim person, because we know Kaduna State is a very cosmopolitan state. And it is very unfortunate that some from the south, but a Muslim that was picked. We commend everybody for picking a woman. At least there's this inclusivity. But picking a Muslim was somehow, and then the Southerners have no option but to accept it at the end. And so far, it has come to end. And I learned that the woman is even going to contest as governor now, but I'm not sure of it. But honestly, for a state like Kaduna that is very volatile, such experimentation is a very risky one. I commend the people to have maintained peace and what have you, because the leaders, the forefathers that decided to design it in such a way that we are going to have a Muslim as a governor or the Christian to alternate the two religions, not to have two religions. They know what they are doing. It's for harmony to reign. But the situation where you have two people from the same religion honestly did not augur very well with some of us.
Now, let's look at the security implication of some governors jettisoning some of these demands, saying that no, it's only our tribe or it's only our religion that will continue to rule this state. Going forward, away from even 2023, what do you think may be the security implication if certain people are consigned totally to only producing deputy governors or only producing senators in a particular state?
Honestly, there must be serious consultations and parleys. If not, it might lead to agitations that eventually may even be violent. Presently, we are seeing what is happening in the southeast, where clamor for presidency and what have you have led to a situation where IPOP are now, or I will say allegedly are now, the ESN, who we think are affiliates of the IPOP, are taking weapon against their own people. This will not augur well, honestly. The leaders and elders of thought in those states must come together and decide on this thing. And I insist or call for that. It should be legal. Our National Assembly should be able to maybe revisit the Abacha Constitution so that these things will be remedied. If not, we will keep on having conflict. Because to the level of local government elections, local government leadership, was democratized in that constitution. If this will be done, I believe a lot of frayed nerves will be calmed.
And as we try to round off this conversation, let's talk about your own state, Borno State. What is Borno South doing at the moment now? Do you think that there's any chance that this scenario can ever change?
For now, honestly, I have not seen, because the people in the south seem divided. I am from Borno Central, but what I can see is that they are a bit divided, because we have three main ethnic groups in the south. The Baburs are the majority, who have resigned to Fed to be deputy governor. Then the Gozas, who are mostly the senators. They've been the senators for Borno South since 1999. Currently, Ali Ndume is their senator. Then Margis, which are mostly only confined to House of Rep members. And let me say that there is a bit of divide and rule happening, because there is hardly any unity. They are always antagonizing themselves in the south. So I doubt if they are ready for now to wrestle leadership, because they have resigned to Fed for just deputy governorship.
Okay, very interesting indeed. And it's the same scenario that's playing out in Delta State, for example, where you have the Anyomas on one side, that's the Delta North, and then you have the Delta Central, and then Delta South, and people are saying that it's time for the Jaws to be governor of Delta State, and then you have the Robo say, no, it's our turn, and all of that after Governor Ifeanyi Okowa. Yeah. Now, lastly, how do we ensure that the National Assembly take such matters serious? And do you think that if they ask this power to be rotated along senatorial districts, that may solve all the problem?
That will be very difficult, honestly, with the realities on ground, because most times the senators and House of Rep members also have their interest to protect. They are always, sometimes even the governor themselves, which delegates their decisions sometimes, because such decision can only be constitutional with a constitutional change, and a constitutional change must go to two-thirds of states, must go to all states, and there must be two-thirds passage. Now, there must be serious persuasion, and there must be interest from the leadership of the country, because one thing I realize is that if the president is interested in such things, possibly there might be a headway. But if the national leadership, the presidency, is not interested in such, I am afraid that it might not see the light of the day.
Well, we must thank you so much, Hamma Ahmed Hayatu, who is a public affairs analyst, for helping us to understand these issues. And who would have thought that something good will be said about the Abacha administration, considering how so many Nigerians keep demonizing him. But you've said something very critical here, that document needs to be revisited. That constitutional conference that was chaired by late Justice Karibi Witt. And it's on this note that we must thank you for being on the show, and hope to have you some other time to talk about these intricacies of the polity in Nigeria. Well, that's how it's been for this edition of the Arise interview. Do join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja. Goodbye and thank you for watching. I'm Somna Sambo.